Hey everyone, welcome. Uh, Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to this Products That Count webinar. It is August 6th, 25. If you're watching this live, you're with us. Thank you for joining us again. If you're watching this at some point in the future, thank you for joining anyway. My name is Nisarg Desai. I'm the Director of Product at Huntress. I am also the host of this webinar. I serve as the Boston chapter head for Products That Count. And this is my monthly webinar on different product management topics. And I am super excited today. We have an amazing presentation, something that might sound very similar, but it's actually very, very different. We've spoken about AI a lot, but we're going to take a different shade at this. I'm really excited with both the topic and our speaker today. I'll talk about that in just a second. But for anyone who's joining us, this is a webinar focused on product topics, product management topics. You want to give back to the community, you want to educate. So thank you so much for being a part of this journey with us. Before we get started, I'm going to say if you're joining us live and in the audience, we cannot see you or we cannot hear you, please use the Q&A function to ask us questions. We would love to answer them live. Please be interactive, send them in. I will make sure those get answered. The raise hand feature is great, but it does not really work because you cannot really come on the mic and speak to us. So please send us your questions. If you're watching this in the future, please feel free to engage with both myself, Products Account, or our guest via LinkedIn in the future. We'd be happy to spend time with you, talk to you, answer your questions. So without further ado, a quick introduction for myself. My name is Nisarg Desai, Director of Product at Huntress. I've been in cybersecurity for the last 15 plus years, been in product for the last decade, and I love two things. I love building products and I love building platforms, and my niche is building platforms. That is why I am so excited to really talk about the confluence of building platforms and product management, because the core of building any platform is scale. You build it because you want to scale. And what is better than to talk about AI and scaling? It is two topics that are actually very interesting, very relevant, very much in the news nowadays, but very few people have actually taken a product and really scaled it and achieved both product market fit and commercial success to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars, let alone $1 billion. So very excited to talk to our guest today. Our guest today is the former head of AI product and data for pricing and promotions at Amazon, Dilip Patel. Dilip, welcome to the PDC webinar. So good to have you.
Hey, thank you, Nisar. Thanks for having me.
Dilip, I'm very excited to talk to you. I have a whole bunch of things that I'm super interested in learning from you. But before we do any of that, can you give us a little bit of intro for yourself? And then we can get into more questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, my journey started on a Wall Street as a quantitative data scientist. I was deep into mathematical modeling, but I thought something was missing. I wanted to solve problem that real people could feel. So that led me to role of data science, as this was kind of a new term coined in 2014. And eventually I transitioned into product leadership. For the past 5 years at Amazon, I led AI pricing and promotion, managing a team of 8+ data scientists and product managers, and was fortunate to deliver impact of billions of dollars incremental GMV. Before Amazon, I built search growth and monetization, such as ad tech products at both big tech and small tech companies or startups in Silicon Valley. Outside of work, I think I'm a lifelong learner. I did my MBA at UC Berkeley Haas, have a CS degree from Mumbai University, and I'm also a CFA charter holder. I believe teaching is a powerful way to both learn and contribute to the community. And in line with this, in addition to my engagement with Product That Count, I also advise AI startups at accelerators such as Skydeck at UC Berkeley, and also teach and coach AI product management at UC Berkeley. So glad to be here.
That's awesome, Dilip. Thank you so much for giving us your time here. Very awesome to have you. I have a couple of questions before we get into our topic. And you have a pretty interesting journey. You were a quant analyst. You were on Wall Street. You've done data science. You moved into product. It is at least to my knowledge, a pretty atypical career path for a product manager. Uh, a lot of them who come from very tech developer programming background. So tell me a little bit about why you started off where you were, and then how and why do you move into product?
Yeah, absolutely. I think at the core of it, as I was talking, that I care deeply about, product which I can experience in my life, right? And so I started as an engineer or quant analyst and focusing more on, algorithm, but soon realized that my passion lies, the intersection of customer, business, and technical domain. And as I moved into leadership role, I care deeply about this topic of AI product management because I've lived through the transition, right? From
Mm.
building models as a data scientist to owning a product as an end-to-end PM. I've seen firsthand that great AI products that don't start with models, actually start with customer problems and business goals. What excites me the most being, helping PMs is this demystifying AI, not just the buzzword, with a clear path to creating value, because that's when, the crux of it comes up. Whether it's helping customer find the right deal while shopping on e-commerce website or helping set business right price, I believe AI can deliver massive value, which we are already seeing if it's done strategically and responsibly.
That's awesome, Dilip. Before we talk about the future, right, and we talk about AI,
Mhm,
um, obviously over the last year or 2 years, there's been a huge amount of media interest in AI,
mhm,
mostly because of Gen AI. But you are formerly at Amazon, and you've been there for several years, and you were head of product for AI. Tell me a little bit more about the for anyone who's listening, who is a product manager looking to get into AI or is an AI product
mhm.
manager. What are some misconceptions, some words of advice? What is something useful that they can take from your time formerly at Amazon?
Yeah, if I could think about giving advice to the PM, I think I'll say, you know, uh, three things. First, and I'm going to cover later in my presentation as well, but I think the number one thing is that, think while AI is still delivering a lot, there's a lot of buzz around it, you always want to start with the customer problem, right? Because if you don't focus on right problem, you know, everything goes for a toss, right? And second, is AI, yeah, as the product becomes AI, right? The role of PM is changing, which is now role of a PM is to train AI, which is a product, right? Uh, and the product manager is the best place to evaluate its performance, right? So I think role of product manager is becoming increasingly important in the world of AI, but some of the role and scopes are changing.
That's very interesting. Thank you for that. Tell me a little bit more about, before we get into the main presentation, one more last question. Tell me more about this topic. Why do you pick this topic? Why is, scaling of AI products and teams uh, that important? Why is it useful and relevant for both PMs and non-PMs alike?
Absolutely. I think with the impact, and I think just big tech investing $500 billion this year, right? So we are already seeing impact. It's becoming part of our life. I think you can't run away from it, right? But at the same time, if not done rightly, you can do massive investments and not get results, right? And so based on my lessons, I think I came up with a framework that, how do you think about what is the right approach or right framework to, leverage AI, but at the same time, prove a success as well very quickly. So I think that's why, depending on the stage of the product or your PM as a career, I think it's very important to, follow a methodical approach. Otherwise, can backfire. So that's why I think it's very. I find it very passionate. I'm very passionate about this topic.
Absolutely. I think I can definitely empathize with you. Having, formerly been at Lacework myself, we learned the hard way that it's very easy to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on AI, specifically ML, training models, get a lot of output, but not get a lot of outcomes. And I think doing it in a structured, right way, hopefully that we learned today, is super important. So why don't I do this? Why don't I share the presentation? I'll
Mhm,
turn over the mic to you, and then once you do that, we can take it away.
mhm. Sounds good.
Okay, let me share my screen um,
Mhm.
and take it away for us. And
Yes,
for
absolutely.
sorry to interrupt you there. For I see a bunch of people who are joining us in the last couple of minutes. If you're joining us, thank you for joining us live. This is a live webinar. Please use the Q&A function to send us your questions. I would love to take those, ask Dilip live, make it interactive. So please keep doing that. Okay, Dilip, sorry. Now take it away.
Yes, absolutely. So I think for great to be presenting a topic of scaling AI products and teams. I think both are equally important. So my approach to build and scale AI products and teams is built on five core pillars. Let's start with slide one. So pillar one, if you can move to next slide, is as I was talking, I kind of gave a hint. To start with the practical approach, right? The pressure to not miss out on AI is immense. And executives are already making decisions to invest hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. So the risk of investing in projects that don't pan out is real. As you meant, I think you clearly articulated well, like outcome versus output. So how do you get started, right? And my answer is find the middle ground. And to do that, the number one thing I think really worked for me is prove the value first, right? Before making massive investments, focus on demonstrating some value quickly. Start with some, readily available, powerful models, which you example OpenAI or Google, right? This allows you to build a prototype very quickly and show tangible results without huge upfront investment because the cost of these tools and APIs are going down. So this allows you to quickly test. But then, as you see the success, I think it makes sense to also, build an IP and iterate in-house. Because once you have successful proof of concept, you can consider bringing capabilities in-house with open source tool and enhance open source tool like Llama, right? This helps you reduce the cost further because as you scale, the cost can quickly add up, right? And gives you more control over technology and build your own IP. So I'll give example in Amazon, when I started leading pricing, we built one of our most complex AI technology, not like directly putting all egg in basket, right? Overnight, but it evolved over time. We started with simple, traditional AI models that would allow us to, benchmark our product when we don't have signal by leveraging a lot of, similar product signal, and came up with the pricing system, which was, quickly by running experiment, we were able to prove value. Once we are able to prove the value, then we can leverage state-of-the-art models, which can allow us to do price optimization with technique like reinforcement learning with human in the loop, right? And that allowed us to get a 10x result in terms of driving GMV and profitability. So I think that was, very useful case study for which we enhance into, other application as well.
Before we move on to the next one, that's a great example. My question is, you mentioned starting off with some open source models, proving the value out, then building your own. Two questions, right? One is big tech versus small tech. If I'm working in small tech for a startup, or just a small tech company, um, does it does the path always lie going from a off the shelf model to a private model? When does it not make sense to build your own model?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I advise a couple of AI startups in several stages of development. I think this makes more. I mean, the approach I make said it mostly makes sense for startup, right? But the phases of you go from public to your own in-house is when it changes. I think big tech is likely they all have made their own bets, so they're likely to directly focus more on their own models, even from get-go. But think about like if you just ignore like bank companies, which have their own, all of them have their own clouds or some capabilities. The rest of the companies, right, which they may not have their own capabilities, this approach makes sense. But for startups, I think bringing in-house required massive R&D, right? And so what I'm observing is that for Series A, B, C startups, bringing in-house is much later, right? Once they scale in terms of profitability and the cost becomes a concern because they don't have just 100 or 1,000 customer, but hundreds of thousands of customer. Again, B2B, B2C depends. So I think depending on the stage, the transition will vary.
Okay, that's a great point. And the second point is, question, sorry, is price the only reason that you want to move in-house? Like, ultimately, you've exhausted everything can squeeze from the model in terms of pricing and optimization and prompt engineering. Um, what are some of the other reasons why someone would want to move off the open shelf model? I mean, they are get like today, the models are frankly amazing, and they are getting better at a faster rate than you can improve your own. So when besides price, what are some other reasons why you would want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say even cost, right?
Oh,
Cost
cost,
is what
sorry.
can be cost can be sorry, survival for the company, but what could be biggest tragedy is you don't have differentiation, right? And that's where you lose out, and that's why a lot of companies would want to bring capabilities in house at the scale is to develop their own IP and develop a differentiation advantage. As we all know, AI models are becoming commodity, and I'll discuss some of the other items in my later slides where you build differentiation by either you have a data advantage or workflow advantage. So as you scale, you want to build differentiation advantage. That's when like doing your own workflow invention or doing your own data advantage gives you unique edge in the market.
Got it. Well, that's a great segue into your second pillar right there.
Yeah. So second, as I was started talking, is data advantage. I think we discussed about AI algorithms becoming commodity. Every day you'll see release from next AI company, which will compare the benchmark and say, my model is better than others, right? So,
Absolutely.
so the biggest advantage I think is very well acknowledged now that it's not AI algorithms. Even we are seeing the companies who are productive. In fact, yesterday there was news that AWS is or OpenAI are partnering, and OpenAI is making some of the model public so that a lot of companies can use it with open source, right? So the single biggest competitive advantage in AI is your unique and proprietary data. So if you're an enterprise company, or let's say a consumer company like marketplace e-commerce, there is a treasure trove of data which earlier you may not be using because of the complexity of the cost, but as the cost have gone down, right? Not just product catalog, but customer, their interaction, user generated data, right? And now with LLM, you can throw all the data in and still uncover very interesting insights. So the question everyone should be asking is that how can I use the data that not only I that data that only my business has an advantage, right? To create unique value than competition. So I think that is the question. I'm always asking. I'll give example. So at Groupon, where I was doing personalization, right? We just didn't rely on user profile or their purchase behavioral data. We use a lot of like contextual data signal, like what is the time of the day, what is the seasonality, what is the purchase history within our platform, and if you can integrate with the external data sources to power recommendation engine. This unique data allowed us to balance both personalization and diversity of the recommendation, leading to significant gains in GMV and buyer conversion. So I think this is how companies are going to differentiate by building data as a moat.
For folks who might not be aware, what does that 2% conversion lift mean? Can you help us understand that a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely. So, let's say customer look at 100 products, right? Which is your impression and views. And in e-commerce, conversion can range from 2 to 3%, which means out of 100 impression you see, how many products you're going to buy, right? So if three are purchased after looking at it, right? So that's a 3% conversion. So when I said 2%, we are able to move from 4 to 6%. So that was a lift of
Wow,
2%,
that's
which
amazing.
was massive.
That's massive. Awesome. Can I move to the next slide?
Yeah, absolutely. The third pillar of scaling a product strategy is what I call implement human in the loop system. So the most powerful, successful AI application today are not fully autonomous, right? We talk about agents, but at the end, I think human is very critical part of scaling AI system. I mean, the autonomous systems are powerful tools, but when they are augmented by human intelligence, that's where the magic works. So my the advice I give is that it's not just about whether AI is output is correct. I mean, based on your metrics, it can still be like, very high precision and accuracy. But if it's not understood by human, right, then what's the value out of it? So the question I ask is that does the user prefer the recommendation I'm giving, even though my technical definition or model is saying is accurate, right? So the correctness and accuracy is in the lens of human, because if humans are going to use at the end, it's important that we get a human feedback. And also quantifying the preference is very important. This is where the product manager role is very critical. To design the system to capture this feedback, both explicitly, example, I'm sure like a lot of products have a ratings and reviews and feedback, but also implicitly, right? Like when what you are predicting is right, do you see that feedback not explicitly but implicitly in terms of users and engagement? So that's the end user feedback, right? I'll give example. When I was working at Salesforce in building CRM, selling products, we built account intelligence application, which was very initial version of AI and machine learning model to identify accounts which customers are likely to convert, but the final decision and the art of the sale was still the account executive, right? Because I think that feedback was very critical in understanding that, how people make a purchase decision and how enterprises make hundreds of $1 million investment in CRM software. So, what they buy, why they buy. And I think explaining that was very critical in driving adoption and also the eventual improvement in the conversion.
This is very interesting and quite ironic, where you were saying implement human in the loop systems when a lot of the AI discourse is about replacing human intelligence. If I were to replay this, what you were saying is you want to build AI products as a PM building an AI product. I should not be thinking of, hey, how can I replace humans, save cost by uh, you know replacing jobs, for instance. What I should be thinking of is how can I better supercharge the people who are still working there, make their lives easier, make their lives more efficient, make their work more efficient. Is that accurate?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the biggest, enterprise software company in sales, CRM Salesforce. I think the CEO announced last year that it's hiring 2,000 more sales people to
Salespeople.
sell AI software, right? So that tells you that the largest player is saying that we're going to hire more humans to sell more. So that kind of validates, but absolutely, I think, at the end, trust is very important in AI, and humans are going to be the key enabler of trust.
That is very interesting. I think ultimately the adage is that humans buy from humans. So I think there is a unsubstantiated but non-insignificant human connection with sales, or an emotional connection with sales. Do you see that being the case? Is that something that's just, hey, we are in this new phase of AI and that's why we have it, or do you expect that, say, with the next generation of humans, that will no longer be a thing, or do you expect that will continue where you will always need a combination of a human plus
Mhm.
AI application?
I think so. I think the role and scope will evolve, right? I think we'll become more productive as we are seeing already. And even the let's say salespeople are going to be more effective because they will get all the insights and recommendation. But at the end, for all key decisions, we're going to depend more and more on, humans will, the relationships I think are critical, right? And so I think the role will evolve, but some of the mundane or operating tasks are getting automated, right? But also creating a lot more opportunities where human can, play the role. So uh, I think that's how I see it.
Awesome. Well, let's move on to your next pillar.
Yeah. So pillar four is integrate AI with analytics and optimize your business KPI. I think finally, as I was saying, AI also doesn't replace analytics, right? I see that they are converging, and your AI must be optimized for right business outcomes to get the right, results. So I see AI as like also analytics enhancer, which we already see right nowadays. You can ask question, but you can also have a structured data and run, uh, RAGs to think of AI as a powerful assistant or data analyst, which can supercharge your analytic capability, right? Making it easier to query database in a natural language, understand the complex problem, right? If you have a new person joining the team, I think it can create onboarding plan, right? If you are existing, you can think about what are the new innovation you can do. So I think the using AI as an analytic enhancer or data analyst or your data assistant, I think that is a powerful way to scale your products. And also, I think, it's very easy and there is slippery slope that as you get into AI, you start thinking about, modeling metrics, like what is the precision, recall, or area under the curve, or what is the error rate? I think those are important. But the end, I would not lose sight of the end goal. As a product leader, you must define, optimize your key business metric and separate input or modeling metrics from the output metrics. Case in example, right? When I was doing pricing optimization at Amazon, while we use state-of-the-art models and techniques, right, at the end and to set the right price, but the goal was still to drive long-term value. And we ran series of experiments and ran some holdout tests to figure out that, while we are improving the pricing accuracy and reducing the error, does it really drive the long-term value, which is a customer outcome and good business outcome. So in summary, I would say leverage AI as in your analytic assistant, and also don't lose the focus of your business metrics and tie them to your modeling or input metrics.
So tell me a little bit more why the LTFCF was the right metric in your case. What made you choose that?
Yeah, see, I think at the end of the day, businesses and companies like Amazon, we all want to think like, what is the long-term value, right? And so, but at the same time, there is a short-term value, right? Like short-term business needs to make profit, right? At the same time, you want to focus on long-term. So, how do you come up with a trade-off which accounts for both short-term and long-term? And so, while we were enhancing our capabilities and leveraging AI, I think it was important that we drive the right outcome for the business and do a right amount of trade-off between short-term and long-term. And the reason you want to focus long-term and long-term customer value is because if customer keep coming and shopping on Amazon, right, that drives your growth, not just for short-term but long-term as well. So I think coming up with the right metric, such as long-term free cash flow, really enabled us to align all stakeholders and continue to invest to drive the right outcome.
So if I'm a PM, right, I'm trying to come up with the right business KPIs. What are some of the methods or frameworks that you have used or you would suggest we can use to make sure that we are picking the right metric? Because if you pick the wrong KPI, nothing else would matter, right? You'll have
Mm,
amazing stats, but wrong outcomes.
mm. Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's this framework I like a lot, like called input and output. right? Like every company wants to drive some version of growth and profit, right? But it's not always in your control. So, what are the inputs you can drive which can impact output metric, like a business metric right away, or you have a path to drive output metric, right? So, what are the key actions user can do or your customer can do, which ties to your long-term metric or your output metric, right? I think that is what is in your control as a product manager, and that's what I want to influence and drive the right habits and behavior among the users and customer so that you can, measure the output metrics, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. It leads me to the next question. Actually, there's a question from Francis, who's in the audience, and what they're asking is, and I'll paraphrase a little bit. Um, they're curious on how you would balance innovation versus solving for a real user problem. As an example, conversational experiences with LLMs um, don't have commercial value at this point in time, at least not yet. The opportunity cost of not doing this means that you might be left behind with your competitors. So, how would you balance innovation versus solving a real world problem in this example that Francis is asking?
Yes, absolutely right. Like, I think the question is, the heart of like a lot of teams and leaders and executives are asking the same question, right? Because the costs are high. At the same time, you don't want to miss out because otherwise you can soon become outdated, right? And a lot of companies are making big pivots. So again, I would say the question really depends, right? What phase in the industry your product is, right? Is it early stage? Is it a growth stage? Is it like maturity stage, right? I mean, some product like customer support are getting disrupted, right? So if you are in the space of customer support, if you're not going to invest, soon you can become outdated, right? But the other products where you have a bit moat, where unique advantage, then you have a much longer time horizon, right? And so I
Mm.
think that will be like high level framework I would suggest. Now, for a given stage of the company, right? I like this McKinsey framework of like horizons, right? Like horizon one, two, three. Horizon one is your cash cow, right? You need to invest in that because that's where you make a bulk of your money. Horizon two is where is next growth your product is going to get from. And Horizon 3 could be this new technology which is going to disrupt your business, right? Something else, something like AI. So, it could be like 40-40-20 with 20% in AI investments so that, when time is right, you can quickly accelerate, right? So, I would, depending on the stage of your product, I would, recommend pick certain percentage. Uh, that's how I would think about it.
Yeah, I love that framework from McKinsey around horizons because as AI SPMs or as AI PMs, everyone is being pressured from executives, from leaders. Hey, what are you doing in AI? Can you do something in AI? And I think as PMs, when we want to invest our resources, I think it's very important to realize that getting that mix, that investment mix right is super important. We can get that wrong and do too much innovation, and then you haven't solved a current problem you want to survive. But if you don't invest in it, or it's too low, you can survive for a little bit. But if you don't have the moat, you can be overtaken by the competition. So I think getting that percentage, that mix right, is super important. Thank you for that, Dilip. Great question. Please keep them coming. Okay, let's go on to the next one.
Yes, and the last phase, but I would say one of my most favorite pillar is how do you scale teams, right? I think
Mm.
it may be very common in Silicon Valley, but not everywhere, right? I think the full stack product pod and what is the role of PM in that, right? So, very standard, well known is that the pod is mix of AI product manager, data scientist, engineer, applied researchers, and scientists with the strategy, but I think the PM also owns in not just strategy and execution, but also evaluation frameworks, offline model test. We discuss about that, business KPIs, right? And I was talking before that since now your product itself is an AI algorithm, right? The role of PM is changing to train AI with the data and perform evaluation with human in the loop, right? And that can be automated as well. So I think that is kind of a new structure evolving as a PM. How do you scale the product team for AI? Second, if you're a product leader coaching your team, I would focus more on teaching PM to understand the model trade-off, right? Which are becoming industry standard, like, what is your precision versus recall, right? There is a clear trade-off there. Or how do you design experiment to test an AI model? Or can you track and observe the model? And can user trust, right? So how do you evaluate the model throughout the life cycle? So, but at the end, being AI PM is not just about writing code, but it's about asking the right question and also aligning stakeholders. So I think that becomes important for a product leader to coach the AI product managers. And lastly, aligning the AI with your culture and trust and developer trust as well, right? No matter how good the model becomes, if the user doesn't trust the output, they won't act or they won't use it, right? So build an explainability, as I was giving example of Salesforce, or what is the fallback user experience if AI goes wrong, right? What are the guardrails and safeguard you can build to make AI adoption feel more intuitive and safe for both business users and consumers. So I think these are the three critical advice I would give to scale your AI product team.
This is fascinating. This is the people side of the problem that I think is often left, underinvested in, or at least enough not enough mind share is spent on this one. So for an example, a question from my own, right? I work in cyber, building cyber products. It is a critical, product, job, role or function. Uh, sorry, a critical tool for many customers, right? It protects them. And there is a lot of angst among users of using AI within cybersecurity because they're worried about hallucinations, low accuracy, low efficacy. Um, you've given some ways in which you can help that through explainability, fallback UX. What are some good examples from your past or from the public domain where AI has been used successfully in a critical domain?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'll talk about, a couple of startups, I've been advising. One is in the space of, customer service or sales. And what I really like about this startup approach is that they kind of develop a playbook, right? But they listen to the call for like 30 days, the founder, and using that playbook that, if customer call to order pizza, I want to buy cake, right? And so understanding that, how customer behave in the real world before deploying I think that is how they were able to train it rightly. At the same time, as they started rollout, they didn't roll out to all customer, right? They did a mini pilots and POCs to see that, what are the edge cases where it can go wrong. And if it goes wrong, how it can be automatically, right? Like we all know the problem when you talk to IVR and wait in queue for long time. But how do you understand and quickly involve the humans, right? So they still kept the human in the loop, uh, right? So if something goes wrong, and if you have some rules and guardrails that if order is not getting closed in certain minutes, I'm going to quickly transfer it to human, right? And to get it done. So I think the incrementally learning and having guardrails and automation really help them to earn customer trust. Rather than, in this space where you can massively roll out 200 plus or 1,000 customer and lose customer trust, which is very hard to earn again. So I think that approach I really liked how they did it, and which is what is kind of key enabler for their growth.
Okay, so focus on trust. That's a great point. Looking a little bit inwards or internally, um, as a PM, how do you justify or prove ROI in AI projects and AI work?
Yeah, I think uh, I would say like a couple of things. Number one, right? It's as we were all talking about, fear of missing out and becoming kind of, outdated in a space, depending on what domain you are. So number one thing I would recommend is that, innovation, right? So it's innovation enabler. That, and again, it really depends on the domain you're operating, as we talked about horizon of investments. So that is the one way that, you always want to invest some percentage of your bandwidth in innovation, right? And you can do some opportunity sizing that if industry scale, what is the impact? So that's more of a, I would say, growth enabler. Second one is absolutely which is where a lot of impact we are seeing is productivity and cost, right? How can you reduce cost, or how can you drive more productivity? So I think that is the second lever. A lot of companies are benefiting and seeing real value. Customer support is a classic example, right? So I think those are the two ways I
Hmm.
see, like either it's growth or productivity enabler. Uh, Happy to learn from others as well, or if you have any thoughts, how you have seen as well.
Yeah, I think it's a
Mhm.
really good question. I think the one of the ways in which I think about this is really doing experiments, keeping the same business metric in mind, but using one that's AI enabled and one that's not, and then comparing the outcomes of the two different groups, two different cohorts. And in one, let's assume a very simple business metric of conversions, conversion rates. Every one
Mhm.
of us has it. We have KPIs on it. Um, Split your experiments into AI and non-AI enabled cohorts, run the experiment, and look at the outputs. And there's twofold here. We are looking at pure business improvements, which is the metric. We're looking at value. So you might have the same conversion rate and no impact on conversion rates, but you might be able to do that with at a much lower cost. Or you might find that, hey, you have a much higher conversion rate, but at a much higher cost. That helps you do a value comparison of whether AI is helping, hurting, or has no impact. I think if you apply that framework across multiple AI experiments, you do find that you pick the ones that work. Not every single experiment needs to be, or not every single feature needs to be AI enabled or even AI powered or AI assisted. I think this helps you weed out the ones where you get the most bang for the buck versus not.
That's absolutely right. And maybe I can add, right, you brought the right experimentation, which I think we discussed a little bit. It's very important that, sometimes it takes time, depending on the product, for customer to develop habit and used to it. So there's
Mhm.
an aspect of like customer training, and you may not see experiment value right away, right? And so what you might want to do is a classical technique of holdout, where you can run for a longer period. You can put 5% of your customers into this holdout group for 3 months, right? And they might develop a habit. And you might see this long-term value aspect of it, that they develop a habit and you start seeing the business uplift. So, might want to have a longer horizon as well, as customer get a higher adoption.
Yeah, I think whole lot groups is a great example. It's a topic that's not or it's a technique that's not most often used, but it's one that's great to prove ROI because if you run that for a longer period of time, you prevent false negatives, so you close an experiment too early. But what you can also do is you can see the aggregate impact of all your experiments versus the holdout group, and then you can say over a period of time how much more impact or not you've had. I think that's a great call out there of holdout groups being that technique. Um, I want to switch gears a little bit and kind of, as we wrap up, talk a little bit about the people side. You've built all these products, which is great. You've obviously built out teams and scaled teams and hired PMs and other functions. So for anyone who's a budding AI PM, um, what do you look for when you are hiring?
Absolutely. So I think first thing is, independent of technology, always start with customer problem, right? Don't lose the sight. It's very slippery slope and easy to get lost in technology and jump to solution. So I think this advice is kind of evergreen, that even a company like Amazon, where all the data and model, ground yourself, your AI product development with the customer behavior, right? Ask question like, how does price influence cart abandonment? Or,
Mm.
how does promotion create urgency, right? At the end, the customer behavior And psychology, I think it's always critical. That's not going anywhere. So great PMs always start or work backward from customer. Second one, on the development side, right? I think the definitely the approach is changing, right? Uh, the thinking in terms of objective function, right? Not just feature. That if I have one or two these features, how does it drive impact, right? You always try as a former data scientist, when I coach PMs to reframe product thinking using objective function, I always ask that, what is your business objective? What is your KPI, right? That kind of, how does it tie to the model objective functions? And what are the constraints, right? Are you able to explain it? Because that's what people will ask you that, how do you understand this behavior? Because system can go wrong, models can go wrong. Can you build intuition around the outcome? So this kind of changes how you define, right, PRDs, how do you run experiment, how you evaluate success. So, I'll ground myself in objective functions and not just features. Lastly, again, take a product context in your framework as well. Example, if you are developing a marketplace product, where I have a lot of experience, everything is multi-sided, right? Like example, if you have a marketplace where if you lower the price, how does it affect seller P&L? If you offer promotion, does it cannibalize your supply, right? So bringing the system thinking mindset to AI modeling, where feedback loops between actors are also very important than ever, because the modeling can easily add complexity. So think about the dynamics of the ecosystem. Who are the players? How does one side affect other side? Uh, yeah, I think these are some of the things I coach and advise PMs.
That's very, very, very useful and astute. Thank you. For anyone who's in the audience, we're going to wrap up after two more questions. So if you have anything, please send it now. Otherwise, we'll do a couple more and then close out this segment, this webinar. So next one on my side, Dilip, is what are some of, as a PM or as a product person working in this, what are some of your favorite AI tools, AI workflows, AI practices that you follow that you think might be useful for other PMs?
Absolutely. I mean, I think if you do, uh, I would say that, I use several. At any point of time, I have like 5, 10 tools open. And, depending on different your use case, one might do other better than others. I'm sure we all know, like, I think this session has a Firefly, will record your meetings, notes, and whatnot, right? So those tools are, again, very common and publicly known. But I'll share something which is not very common, may not be common, right? I think my latest gig has been, whatever problem you are facing. Example, I advise a lot of AI PM. So I created an AI assistant myself, where, if I can share it with anyone, they can ask question, and I train with my own data. There are a couple of ways you can do it. I think Notebook LLM is fantastic. If you work in any space, right, you can throw all documents. That kind of becomes a question answer. Or nowadays, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or Anthropic, they all allow you to create your own version of assistant.
Mm,
Uh, Different names, but I think that I find it very powerful. Uh, it kind of creates your custom vertical AI application, and has all your knowledge retention and answer every question. So that's my kind of go-to way to solve some of the problems.
that is so cool. Um, okay, we're going to
Mhm.
close it out with one more question, and this one is kind of open-ended. Um, Finally, what is one piece of advice, Dilip, that you would give to a PM who is building, AI products right now? What's the one takeaway that you'd like them to have?
One takeaway is very personal to me. I think you asked this question before as well, that the role is changing, whether we like it or not. Uh, there is one way it's like resist and wait for it, and the other one is kind of embrace and go for it. I'm leaning on second approach. The expectations are changing, right? Teams are going to be more leaner. So now think about a world where if you're a product leader, where you used to have 5, 10, 15 different products. Think of a future where you will have a team of engineers, designers, and product managers, but some of them will be AI. So,
Hmm.
how do you think from that lens that you scale not just through people or your partners, but with the AI assistant? And so to do that, how can you evolve as the world is evolving, right? And my best approach is to, something like this: be in the community, right? Like share the knowledge, be with people, like learn with people. That's the kind of message I will give.
That is awesome. It's a completely different way of thinking how you would scale, which is with AI, which is what this talk was all about. Learn with people is our ultimate takeaway. That was awesome. Thank you so much, Dilip, for sharing your thoughts, your knowledge, your experience with us. Uh, we had a whole bunch of people who were with us. Thank you for joining us live. Um, very quickly, we are at an end of this webinar. We do this every month. Uh, those who are watching this in the future, please tune in again in our September webinar where we have some awesome stuff happening. But for now, Dilip, thank you so much for being with us on this PDC webinar. Um, and we wish you the best.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for everyone for asking really interesting question.
That was awesome. Thank you, folks. We will see you on the next one. Take care. Cheers.